Hey, friends. So I have a confession, a serious confession, and I might even need an intervention. The truth? I'm a friendaholic. I'm a friendaholic, and I make friends everywhere. On planes, on trains, in lines, and while I dine. I make friends simply walking down the street, at the grocery store when shopping, and even when I sleep. Yes, friends, I make friends in my dreams. But I must admit, I haven't always been like this. In fact, the younger me was shy, very shy. When Mom would take me to daycare, I would scream and cry. And when family would come visit, I would run and hide. But in 2009, I was forced to change. And since 2009, I have not been the same. On October 1st, 2009, I was 25. And I had just earned my MBA, which for many would be a thing to celebrate, but not for me. Because when I went to bed that night, I realized I was not where I wanted to be. Actually, I'm lying. I was where I wanted to be, but society told me that at that age, I needed to be married. I needed to be established in my career, and I needed to be with child. And on October 1st at 25, I was none of those things. I was lost and confused. I didn't know what I wanted to do or where I wanted to be. I couldn't find a job, so I had to move back home with my mom just to make ends meet. And to add insult to injury, my relationship of 6 years was failing, and I was at the American Red Cross, making $13 a day and $91 a week. And before you start to think that the Red Cross was paying me illegally, they weren't. They weren't. I was in AmeriCorps, and although I chose AmeriCorps to serve my community, AmeriCorps was my plan B. And the living allowance was barely enough to eat. Speaking of eating, did I mention I was on food stamps? In AmeriCorps, food stamps are offered as a perk to ease your financial burden. But on October 1st, food stamps were my burden. And right there, in front of the cabinet of health, family, and food stamp services, I sat in my sob and sobbed. I bawled, y'all, with snot and all. A lot of snot. Because life was not like my childhood dreams. I hated adulting, and the tears wouldn't stop rolling. It was agony and ecstasy, defeating and cleansing, and the beginning of my quarter-life crisis. And if you've been here, you know exactly what I was feeling, right? You know the feeling. In elementary, they tell you to go to middle school. In middle school, they tell you to go to high school. In high school, they tell you to go to college. And then after college, they tell you to figure it out. Figure it out? That makes no sense to me. They say, until you really need them to say, and then they stop saying. Crazy. And that's the perfect word that sums up that year for me. It was crazy. And after much journaling, much reflecting, much woes is me's, crying and praying, I had a decision to make. I could continue to live in quarter-life strife, or I could figure out this thing called life. I chose the latter. I chose to step out of my millennial comfort zone and meet 100 people in 100 days the good old-fashioned way. No technology, no text, just good old face-to-face connectedness. I wanted to hear their stories. I wanted to learn from their experiences, and I wanted to follow their paths to love, leadership, success, and happiness. And so, on October 2nd, my 100 people in 100 days commenced. I started my journey by contacting my local Chamber of Commerce. I figured with a reach of 15 counties and 1.4 million peeps, they could tell me a thing or two about adulting. And they did. That year, the Chamber kickstarted my 100 in 100 journey by inviting me to a 2-day leadership conference. The purpose of the conference was to help Louisville create a vision for its future. However, Louisville was 231 years old at the time, so I figured she'd be okay with me focusing less on her future and more on mine. And that's exactly what I did. For 2 days, I ran around that conference, meeting as many people as I could meet. And in a room full of 116 attendees, I met more than 50. I met people like Dr. Lance Secretan, ski enthusiast, quarter-life strife genius, and leadership theorist. And he changed my life with 3 words: why, be, do. Why are you here? How will you be? And what will you do to use your gifts and talents to serve? After that conference, I felt high. After 2 days of reflecting, I didn't have all 3 answers, but I did have my why. I am here to be a mentor for the mentorless, hope for the hopeless, and a friend for the friendless. I am here to serve. Following that conference, more than 50 VPs and C-suites agreed to meet with me. And they even suggested other people I should meet. And each coffee, each tea, each lunch, and each brunch got me one step closer to my why be do. Which brings me to connection number 22, Barbara. Barbara was a mother of 7 who grew up with humble beginnings. As a child, she would eat her favorite childhood meal of cabbage, cornbread, and navy beans. And she would daydream about becoming a manager at Walgreens. Now, fast forward 20 years later, Barbara had never worked at Walgreens, but she did become a manager at Wendy's. Then a radio personality, a renowned blogger, a sought-after speaker, and a fearless leader who raised more than $200 million for children in our region. I was so inspired by Barbara, and after meeting with her, I ran home to my mom, and I asked her about my childhood dreams. Mom said that as a child, I was always interested in problem solving and creativity, and that I channeled this energy through fashion. Fashion, cooking, and making things. Mom also told me that in the 7th grade, I looked a CEO dead in his face and said, "I'm gonna have your job one day." And that made me smile, because moms always know what to say. And right there in our living room, Mom gave me the fuel needed to continue my 100 in 100 pursuit. Connection number 47, Nat. Nat was a professor at the university, and he studied people like me. He called us thrivals, and he defined us as a new breed of African Americans with a globally tuned, forward-thinking, no-limits approach to doing business. Nat was also a futurist, and in order to figure out my own future, he recommended that I do 4 things in my present. 1, find my voice. 2, read everything. 3, journal daily. And 4, learn from people and learn from my past. After meeting with Nat, I read everything, but 2 books come to mind, Purpose-Driven Life and What Color is Your Parachute? I even got into a daily routine of journaling, and I started journaling every time I was happy. The other thing I did, I texted 20 of my friends and asked, if you could pick a career for me, what would it be? Now, most of them thought I was drunk texting, but they still replied, and surprisingly, their answers were very aligned with mine. That meeting with Nat and those activities got me one step closer to finding me in my 100 in 100 passage pursued. Connection number 81, John. At the time, John did community outreach for the Ali Center, and he also did photography on the side. And within minutes of us meeting, John saw something in me and didn't need a camera to see it. Smiling ear to ear and cheek to cheek, John whispered, "You're going to be a brand one day, so go ahead and purchase the domain." And for the first time in my life, I didn't know what to say, so I just sat, and he continued. "It seems like you like business, and it seems like you like mission, so why don't you just bridge the two and go into social innovation?" "Social what?" I exclaimed. "Social innovation," he explained, and then he shared his dream of using art, light, and photography to end social inequality. After my meeting with John, I felt free. I felt free because for the first time in my life, someone had given name to the very thing I was seeking. And within weeks of us meeting, my 100 in 100 was complete, my YBD was complete, and I was moving to St. Louis, Missouri to teach 8th grade science with Teach for America. I landed in St. Louis July 15, 2010. I had no family and no friends, but I did remember a little thing that helped me achieve my last life goal. And so, my Meet 100 People in 100 Days, the St. Louis Way began. And it was the best decision I ever made because those same people that I met during those 100 days are the same people I depend on today. They are my tribe, my family, and my community, and some of them are in the audience today. Hey, friends. Speaking of today, I stand here before you on November 2nd, 2017. And at this point in my life, I've met 100 people in 100 days, going on 5 times. And here's the irony. All along, I thought these meetings were supposed to help me find my purpose. But all along, these meetings were my purpose. Because we don't connect for purpose. Our purpose is to connect. Did you catch that? We don't connect for jobs, to get ahead, or for success, or at least we shouldn't. Our purpose is to connect. But research shows that we are spending less time with family, making less friends, and avoiding strangers at all costs. And as a result, we have increased memory loss, loneliness, stress, and heart disease. And there is one thing that can change everything, one thing, and that is human connection. Because humans need human connection. And now, I am challenging you. I am challenging all of you to meet 100 people in 100 days, which isn't that hard to do, considering most of us pass 60 to 70 people a day. And know that when I say and suggest this, I'm not asking you to be extroverts, but I am asking you to convert to human acknowledgers, to acknowledge the people standing in front of you and behind you in lines, to acknowledge the people that wait on you while you dine, to acknowledge the people sitting next to you on planes and on trains, to acknowledge the human beings standing on corners asking you for change. I'm asking you to put down the technology and acknowledge humanity, because there will always be one more email and there will always be one more tweet, but we should never be too busy to acknowledge humanity. Humans need human connection. So acknowledge your coworkers, connect with your family, hear a stranger's story and share yours too, because we can bring great meaning to each other's lives, and nearly 500 of you have brought great meaning to mine. And now that I know my why, no matter how I'll be or what I'll do next to use my gifts and talents to serve, this is how I'll get there. 100 people, 100 days at a time. Will you join me? Thank you.